Hello, guys and gals, and welcome. Welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a new pair of boots called the Wraithstep, and they are mirrored boots, which is kind of odd because we'll talk about why it's odd. But let's go over the item first. So first off, it does have a defense between 99 and 128. It has a strength requirement of 163, of course, because these are mirrored boots. And 163 is kind of high. That's actually above a Monarch shield. And not only is that above a Monarch shield, but I think most of the time on the Warlock, you're probably not going to be using a Monarch shield. You're probably going to be using books that have relatively low strength requirements. In general, I'm not exactly sure why they would put the boots on such a high strength requirement piece of equipment for a character that generally doesn't invest very much into strength at all, which is just kind of silly. I can't even put them on. And I kind of wanted to leave it that way because, like, I want to demonstrate that, like, I can't wear it right now, and most people probably won't be able to wear these. And I think a lot of Warlocks are probably going to be end up being low strength builds, generally because of things like this, which allow you to reduce the requirements of all your weapons, and also the fact that most are probably going to be using books, not shields. So in general, you're just like, I don't know what to think about these. They do have some interesting stats on them, though. They have +1 to Eldritch weapon skills, which is, of course, this tree right here. The nice tree that contains things like Echoing Strike and Mirrored Blades and Cleave and whatnot. But honestly, it's kind of like the poopy tree to have plus the skills on because it's mainly melee skills, and melee skills tend to get the worst effects from plus the skills. It could be decent for Eldritch Blast or some of the hexes, but overall, I'm not exactly like sure that it's really an amazing plus the skill pair of boots. It does have 30% faster on walk, which is not bad. 40%, of course, is a little bit better, but the Warlock does have some innate ways that they can increase their movement speed, which is actually kind of neat. We also have 20% faster hit recovery, which is always nice. It's always nice to have faster hit recovery for basically any like build because you don't want to get stuck in faster hit recovery loops. And in general, you just like dying is bad, right? So like getting stuck in a faster recovery loop is bad, and so having faster recovery is always a good thing. It does have 44 bonus defense on it, and it also comes with 11 dexterity, which does roll between 10 to 15, and it has 40 to 60 defense. That 44 rolls between 40 to 60, and then it rolls between 10 to 15 energy. Now that we've gone over the item, let's kind of talk about it for a second here. As a pair of boots, it's very mediocre. The +1 Eldritch skills is probably the worst tab skills that you could potentially have for plus the skills. I feel like on any class, there's always like a tab skill that's like the odd man out, right? Necromancer, it's curses. Barbarian, it's combat skills. Paladin, it's defensive auras, and so forth and so on. And I feel like the Eldritch skills is probably the one set of skills that they really probably shouldn't have done. +1 is basically nothing. And then on top of that, like it's on the tree that gets very limited benefit from having plus the skills. Like in the grand scheme of things, you're talking about like 5% maybe increased attack damage and maybe like an additional 10% attack rating. Like it doesn't really do a lot for combat skills. That's why barbarians don't stack combat skillers because there's very little effectiveness there. So in general, +1 just seems kind of stingy for a pair of boots that requires 163 strength and doesn't really give a whole lot else. All in all, I'm going to have to rank this one as kind of a poopy pair of boots. Not really the best pair of boots. Requirements are too high, and the benefits that you get from them are not great. I could see them potentially becoming useful if you're trying to stack like Hexbane, Hex Purge, or Eldritch Blast as high as you can possibly get it. But that's about it. Like, I can't really see much more usefulness out of them other than that. And the only reason they work well with Eldritch Blast, Hexbane, and Hex Purge is that they have flat damage values that scale with the level. Unlike Leviathan Mastery, or Leviathan, the Levitation Mastery, that really only gives you a small bonus of damage, attack rating, and a little tiny bit of crit, or like Echoing Strike that only gives you damage and crit, it's not as useful. Echoing Strike might get a bigger benefit than something like Cleave or Mirrored Blades, though, because Echoing Strike does actually get a flat damage addition per level. So that +1 could have a mediocre effect on Echoing Strike itself. In general, though, I just don't really think this boots is a really great pair of boots. It could use some negative requirements. It could use maybe more plus Eldritch skills. I think +2 wouldn't even really be pushing it. Honestly, +3 wouldn't even be pushing it. And you could make it roll between 1 to 3 or whatever. Um, I just, it's a weird choice for a base type for a class that is not really going to stack strength in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I probably am going to make every single one of my Warlock builds low strength because you can easily just use Levitation Mastery, which is going to reduce the requirements of essentially your weapon, the dex requirement, the strength requirement. And then if you're using a book, you don't have a high strength requirement there. And you can, of course, go with a low strength requirement armor base. And by the time you're done, like most of your equipment is going to be relatively low requirements. So why would I want to go with a like extremely high requirement pair of boots and waste like half my stat points? Um, we'll see like what they do with these boots. They might change them. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll watch my video and be like, "Wow, he really just like raked the wraith steps over the coals." Like, oh my god, like we really need to do something to make these better. Which, quite honestly, they do. So if later on you watch this video and you're like, "Man, those wraith steps look absolutely terrible. The ones I have here are way better." Well, you can maybe like thank me because maybe I'm the reason why they ended up getting buffed, which they really kind of do need some buffs. They're just mediocre boots in general. I probably wouldn't pick them over just about anything else in the game. If I was a melee character, especially, which is what these are designed for, I would much rather have like anything else, like Gore Riders or, um, you know, like anything that's going to give me like Crushing Blow or Open Wounds or Deadly Strike or, like something that's actually going to help my physical damage. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and girls watching. Let me know what you guys think about these boots. Maybe I'm entirely wrong. Tell me about why I'm wrong. As always, keep watching.